It's about to be. Let's do it. It's about to be. It's about to be. Let's do it. I know the money, but that's strong. And the hate, but that's long. But the crew, man, we stay on it. Yeah, the crew, but we stay on it. Like a light, I flip the switch. Like a light, I flip the switch. We about to hit. Yo, get it running, I'm about to hit. And then I hit it, running, go all day. Watch me, did I do okay? Listen, I don't really care about the grip. Yo, me and my team about to dip. Game over, little flip. Shut it down, man, go and sit. Headed every day like big crit. Yo, give it to me now, that's it. And then I told my girl, go look at this. And then I told my mom, go look at this. And then I told...
Guys, welcome back to the Be Different podcast. I'm going to be your host today in what is a very, very special morning. Crosstown Shootout is happening on Saturday, but we have a battle that is going on right now. And the battle that we're going to have is going to be between Andy Mac Williams and pretty boy Greg Richard, the tandem of two right here. We also have across the street, we have Leonard Stokes, we have Nick Given. They will be talking about the Cincinnati Bearcats. Okay, it's an important game, guys. I mean, the shootout used to be called the Classic there for a couple years after the 2011 brawl, but we don't like to talk about the Crosstown Throwdown. We're moving on. We're focusing on what's going on the court. Rich history for both these teams. UC, they lead the overall records.
Oh, come on,
50 to
Brad.
34.
That's a stat you could just flush down the toilet.
UC has 50 wins
Give me a break.
compared to Xavier 34 wins, but recent history has proven Xavier to be the better team recently.
Let's talk about recent relevant stuff when
Xavier
guys wore socks that are normal. Now.
Xavier has won 12 of the last 18.
Definitely have, but Andy, you can't just pick when you want history to be to be chosen.
We can't necessarily pick when it starts.
It's
Andy,
my
they
world.
have 50 wins. I
And
mean, you have to give
welcome to
UC the credit overall.
You sound so American and so white.
Let's go back to the modern history of Xavier basketball when Bob Stack showed up in 1979. Since then,
Did you say
38
modern?
games, 22 Xavier wins, 16 for UC. Now that is relevant history. That's a representative slice of Americana right there. 22-16 Xavier.
There's no doubt that Xavier has proven their worth over the last couple of decades.
Thank you, Brad.
And Andy,
Thank God you're the moderator. You do have a little bit of
allude to that
Xavier
point.
tilt.
But I think we can also both agree both of these teams have a rich history. Rich history. And
I like Oscar. I know Oscar.
Great guy.
We did some TV games together. He was really negative, though. I mean, very critical of players.
Oh, really?
And deservedly so.
Well, he should be. The guy's a stud. He's an all-star. He doesn't look at the game maybe the same way you or I do.
May I say right now I'm awed to be on the same stage as Leonard Stokes because he scored 39 in an NCAA tournament game 2001 at the Big Igloo in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. UC did lose to UCLA in double overtime, but Leonard, 39 points. I watched it on TV. It was an incredible shooting display.
And we
worthy of the Big Ho.
You're right, and we have some big-time people here from all aspects. We have guys who called the game,
Leonard wore number 13,
played the game. We got it all, and then we got our fans, pretty boy Greg, and we got Nick here that have seen the game from a deal. Let's talk about a little bit of history, and I want to talk not about the team's history. We'll stop with that. Just, Leonard, let's start with you, a player perspective. Being in the game, maybe a great moment that you had in the shootout.
A good moment was actually the first year that Cintas opened, the arena opened, and we played there, and I think we were on, may have been 7-game win streak. I think we lost our first game to Oklahoma State, and then we ran off like 22 in a row. And Crosstown just happened to be one of those 22. But, I mean, it was an electric atmosphere, grand opening of the arena for the Crosstown, and it was a pretty good environment.
But you guys ruined the Musketeers shootout night in Cintas, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, because you guys won that game. Was that a close game?
No, we won by maybe 18.
Final score was 75-55 UC, and it's funny how people have different perceptions of that game. David West sprained his ankle, I think 3 minutes in, and he obviously was the Xavier horse. And by the way, that's the only game that UC has ever won at the Cintas Center. Since then, Xavier 6-0. But Hugs had a great team that year, and I don't think it was going to be. It was Thad Matta's first year as coach, and he was a little bit out of his element. And the UC played great. I mean, if West had stayed healthy, it probably would have been like a 12-point game. But UC was that.
They've had
Andy,
had
I can't believe that was the first time I've ever heard Andy Mack give UC any credit for anything. So Andy, kudos to you. These are amazing moments.
Point to Leonard. Really, he's from
now.
Buffalo. I mean, I give him credit. I love Buffalo. I'm a Central New Yorker. We used to go over there all the time and have those chicken wings at the original chicken wings place.
Yeah, at the Anchor Bar.
The Anchor Bar, great
I grew
great
up
place.
5 minutes from the Anchor Bar.
Did you? See, again, he ascends again on my pantheon of great
More things in common than you know.
Well, yeah. So Centos is a tough arena to play in. I mean, that was the last time we won. But I mean, getting into that environment. I mean, as a fan, last time I was over there, I mean, that place is electric. And if you're not ready, if you're not prepared to go in there and battle, you'll get ran out of that place pretty quickly.
And Xavier does have a 6-game winning streak over the Bearcats there, but 4 of those games have been very close. There's a double overtime, single overtime, a couple 2-point games. I give Cronin credit. When he takes a team over there, with the exception of that stupid fight game in 2012, and of course 2 years ago that was a 10-point game Xavier's way. So twice. He's brought teams over, and they haven't done so well. But the other times, very, very competitive.
All right, let's move on to a fan perspective. I want to hear from Pretty Boy Greg, and I can't believe I'm referring to you as that. But the first time Leonard met Greg, he called him Aaron Rodgers, which was a great compliment. Yeah. And then he got injured for the rest of the year right after. So it's somewhat of a bad omen.
Yeah, how's the collarbone, big boy?
It's okay. It's okay. I feel like I can get through this podcast.
Greg, you got any good moments
I was up and throwing last week, so.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm glad your arm's doing well.
How's Olivia?
We don't speak much.
Wow, was she great on the newsroom or what?
For real. Honestly, Sorkin,
Olivia
one of the best working
Olivia Munn.
Great show.
Newsroom's a very good show.
But Greg, in regards to the shootout, let's move on to the shootout.
Okay.
We'll get Olivia in another conversation.
Okay.
And you get, Skyline chili during a game when you're 4 years old or something. I don't know, going on your dad's shoulders after a Xavier victory. You got anything like that?
I think it has to be the 03-04 season. Just the Lionel Chalmers shot. I think it was 71-69. It was at the Centos Center, and I don't think it was a buzzer beater, but it was pretty close. There might have been a few seconds left on the clock, but that was a great game. Yeah. That was probably the one I remember the most.
That actually triggered Xavier's great run. They ended
run.
up going to the Elite Eight and losing a tight one to Duke. Yeah. Down in Atlanta, they beat the St. Joe's Hawks when they were #1 up in Dayton and undefeated.
Lionel had a really good tournament that year.
He was great.
Did you know Lionel playing in high school?
Yeah, we play AAU together.
Yeah, okay. Cause I figure you guys both grew up in New York.
Quick story is Lionel and I were the same year, but then so we started playing AAU together in 8th grade, and we were the only 2 8th graders on our AAU team. I mean, we were loaded at one point. I think we had Elton Brand, Lamar Odom.
Wow.
I mean, we had
that's a pretty good team.
But that was the older team, so we're the younger team. But Lionel and I were jockeying for our alpha maleness because we were the 2 youngest guys, and we did not speak. I mean, we couldn't stand each other. And then finally it got to a point where we started to play, and we're just like, this is dumb. And then we became our best of friends.
That's awesome. An awesome
That's
story.
a good story.
Do you guys keep in touch now, or?
Yeah, actually, our daughters have the same name. I mean, we named our kids after each other.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah, I talk to Lionel all the time. That's my guy.
That's a great side
Wait,
story.
he named his daughter Leonard?
No, London. Both of our daughters are named London.
London, okay. Okay. Oh, that's funny.
Mick, what about you? You got any shootout memories?
You know exactly what I'm going to say.
What's that?
I love a good sports fight. To me, it just adds so much more tension to going in. Every year from now on, it's going to be, are they going to throw down again? It's the best.
Well, and I think the fight, in some ways, from a national perspective, has brought more clout to the game. Maybe not exactly the way you want it, but for me, as a former player at Xavier, when I go anywhere outside of Cincinnati and I say I played at Xavier, the first question I get is, were you in the fight game? And the answer is yes.
It makes it nationally relevant. It just does.
I mean,
I didn't see you going after Gates out there.
I did. Guys, listen, I'm not a fighter. Okay? I knew when the fight was going on, I was like trying to diffuse. You know, I was more the Lonzo Ball with the Lakers. You know, just I'm going over to Coach Walton, get me the heck out of here. Okay.
Brad was flashing the peace sign.
Yeah.
I mean, Kenny Freese tried to mediate that thing. You see what happened to him. So Brad was staying on the periphery, but go, hey guys, hey.
I'm a peacekeeper. I always have been. You know, my guys went out there. They did what they needed to do. You know, punches were thrown, but all in all, everybody was fine, and the games moved on, and now we get a game Saturday at the Toss.
We do not need another fight in 2017 because if we do, this will be the 85th and final Crosstown Shootout.
Yeah,
I mean,
no
they'll go back
fights.
to calling it the Crosstown Bake Off or something.
Yeah.
You know, instead of.
I was shocked that, you know, not to shine any light on that thing, but I was just shocked that, you know, I was at the game. I was actually sitting behind the bench with Babcock, who was our AD at the time, and that was his first shootout. But I was just shocked that the dislike that the players have for each other, because when we played during that week, you understand the rivalry and the intensity, and we just didn't speak to each other during that week. But after that, we were all, we were all friends.
I think that those teams, it resonated with just a few of the players. I don't think it was everybody.
Okay.
But I know at that time it was like Kenny Freese and Yancey. I know they didn't like each other. And then when prior to the game, when there was a press conference with UC, I can't remember which player it was, but they mentioned that two wouldn't start for their team, and I think two took offense to that. So I think it became personal between two and Mark Lyons, and then Kenny. And then the game, probably at that point, we were up about 20. They were still in the game, and just temper started flying. But I was kind of more like you, where I knew the UC guys. We played Devereaux League together. When you'd see them out on a Friday or Saturday night, I mean, it was fine. It was more, I always felt like it was more of like they were like kind of like cousins, where there's respect for each other. But then when you step on the court, you're not talking to them during the week of the shootout.
I think Andy Furman had put Kilpatrick in a tough situation in an interview.
Yeah.
And he'd said, well, would two Holloways start for the Bearcats? What's he going to say?
Right.
You know, I mean, he's got his teammates. He said, no, a Holloway would come off the bench or wouldn't start.
I remember that because as soon as it happened, it was a firestorm. I mean, there were tweets going out. There was everything. And everyone was just like, man, this is
But you're right. That's a tough situation because when he gets asked that question, he's just looking out for his teammates. He's playing an opposing team, a rival team on Saturday. You don't want to put him in front of any of the other guys.
Kilpatrick's a good guy, obviously a great basketball player, still, you know, in the NBA, and Furman just put him in a really tough spot, and you know, he's a bit of a word. Not magician, but tactician or whatever, and two really took it personally, and it went viral, etc. I still contend the fight never would have happened if Pat Kelsey had still been a Xavier assistant coach, because Mac didn't have an assistant then who could really come up and say, listen, we got to do this. Chris left his starters on the floor too late because he was upset over what had happened the year before over at UC. And they lost by 20. He was embarrassed by it. And Kelsey would have grabbed him and said, all right, get the guys out with 2 minutes left, and we're not even going to do handshake. We're going to go around the other way. And that, I mean, if the fight hadn't happened right when it did, it would have been the handshake line. I mean, there was that much vitriol between the teams. So if Kelts is still there, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, because that's what when I was there, I just didn't understand. You know, you guys were up big. You know, you got to let your starters walk off to standing ovation.
Absolutely.
So
good perspective, Nick. Thank you for bringing that up.
Mac had the
I think we're all thankful that they've been able to find a way to continue to play the game and be able to play the game back on campus. Because U.S. Bank was fun for a couple years. I thought it was fine. At least we were able to play the game. But to have the game back on campus, have the students right there, I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think, you know, Paul Doherty was talking about how they'd sucked the passion out of the game. It wasn't the same. Now it's back on campus. I believe it has returned to the emotional level that it deserves. Great basketball game, great players, and that's what it is. I mean, it is what it is. It's a great spectacle, and it's, you know, arguably, unless the Reds ever make the World Series again, which is highly suspect, it's one of the top 2 or 3 events on the sports calendar in the city.
Well, let's get everybody up to speed on the game that's happening on Saturday. Each team has played a number of games. UC at this point, they have not lost a game. They're 7-0. Xavier is 6-1 going into the game at home. Andy, let's start with you. Where is Xavier right now? How do you feel about them? Let's talk about some of their quality wins as well.
I feel a lot better about Xavier this morning than I did after the Arizona State game, which was, I mean, the defense became a total foreign concept in that game. Xavier gave up 102. I'm going to blame it on the light cavalry Pac-12 approach to basketball, which should be outlawed. Anyway. Last night, Xavier played a really good game, physical game. They beat a good Baylor team from the Big 12 at their own game. They out-rebounded a very physical Baylor team. They also punked them at the free throw line. And Baylor made a couple of big runs, very resilient team, up 13. Xavier saw that melt away, up 14 in the second half. I was really impressed. Najee Marshall, the freshman, I think he's going to be the exception in this shootout. Luckily, it's at Cintas. He's going to play well against the UC. Big physical guy, and when the offense sort of stalls, he'll put the ball on the floor, take it to the rim, and scramble the defense. I thought Najee played well. Obviously, Quentin Gooden, the sophomore point guard, had a stellar night last night. And JP was JP. That bank shot he hit at the buzzer first half really reignited the momentum. The only negative for Xavier is that Trayvon Blewett does have a little bit of an ouchie back apparently they took a red eye after the Friday game from Vegas to Cincinnati. His back tightened up, but they feel that they can have him at 100% for Saturday. They've got 3 days.
Definitely want a healthy Trayvon Blewett for that game against Cincinnati.
He played a lot of minutes against Baylor, but it was sort of rope-a-dope. I mean, Baylor slanted their defense toward him, and Trayvon was a facilitator, 3 assists. He still rebounded the ball, played well in the 50-50 situations. So, I mean, he's the type of guy, if he's not scoring, he's still helping. So, I mean, I think with 4 seniors on the team, a home court advantage, et cetera, I think Xavier's in decent shape heading into this game.
Yeah, and Xavier's tested. They've played 3 legitimate teams. They're 2-1 in those games. Beat a good Baylor team. Won a tough game on the road at Wisconsin. Had obviously the tough loss against Arizona State where they struggled defensively. But a tested team to this point.
I think the resume is there, and this team is still building off an Elite 8 run last year. And I think they're going to be better at the end of this year, depending on health, than they were last year at the end. That's the Chris Mack goal, to have his team playing its best in the month of March, and health is the only question mark. But you know, the young guy, Tyreek Jones, they got to get him on the floor 25 minutes. He is a bull. He answered every call against that big Baylor front line last night. Very, very physical player. And you know, another guy who's slowly developing, getting more confidence in the Xavier scheme is Karem Cantor. He plays below the rim. He's a big guy, but he's got all the little moves, that little up and under, little fadeaway. He's now shooting the free throws well. He adds another mix to that center 3-headed monster. You know, they underrate the Xavier front line. Those guys, mix them together. That's a pretty good potion.
All right, well, we'll debate all those guys here shortly. On the UC side, they are 7-0, haven't lost a game. Offensive production has been there. They've been getting better point guard play over the last couple of games. Leonard, where are the UC Bearcats at right now?
Good team, can score the ball. Just have to not turn it over as much, and that comes with, you know, switching the point guard. You know, obviously we lost Troy Copain from last year. Troy was a great assist-to-turnover ratio guy, ran the team pretty solidly, but, you know, as you're going to take risks and get up and down the floor with, you know, with the 2 point guards that we have, there's going to be, you know, there's going to be turnovers involved. But I think, you know, we need to limit that, and I think if we can do that, I think we've got a decent shot. Obviously, it's going to be a hostile environment over at Cintas, and you know, Xavier's playing well. They're battle tested, like Andy said. Their resume has been great leading up to this game. I don't think we've had that much of a test early on, but for us, you know, starting this game, you know, we go through December. You know, we've got Florida, got some other teams, so it'll be an interesting December for my Bearcats. But you know, going over to Cintas, I think it'll be it'll be a grind of a game.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be.
Well, I mean, those 7 wins, you never want to lose a game, so they haven't done that yet. But this really starts UC's schedule. It's going to be challenging. It starts with Xavier. It's Kane Broom's first time playing in this game. Justin Jennifer, it'll be his first time getting legitimate minutes. So you have your 2 point guards and haven't played in this game. How challenging do you think it's going to be for them going on the road and obviously a big rivalry game?
Yeah, that's going to be the key. I mean, if those guys play well, I think we walk away with the victory. They cannot turn the ball over in that hostile environment. I mean, we were freshmen. When I was a freshman, we were highly touted. Me, Kenny Satterfield, DeMar Johnson. I remember Coach Hugs telling us, "Hey, your guys are going to go over there. It's going to be 10,000 screaming fans." And we're like, "Man, we played in front of 10,000 people in high school. No one cares." And you get into that arena, and it is a zoo in there. So
Yeah.
I mean, you really got to be locked in. You got to be dialed in. You got to be focused. And I think, Mick has done a good job with that throughout the years with the guys. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, beating a good team on the road, even though it's only a couple miles away, there's a difference. There's a difference. Anytime you play a top 25 team on the road, rival or not rival, I mean, for you to go into their building and win, you got to play one of your best games. You got to be hitting on all cylinders. There's got to be attention to detail on both sides. All right, so let's move on. We're going to start debating the topics. So I got the 5 topics written up right here because I know our memories are very short. So unless I don't have them written on the board over here, it's at least for me, it's a big problem. And Andy, I know your memory is, we'll just move on from that.
If I don't know, I make it up. And Brad, are you the sole arbiter? Is there an appeal process if we don't like the decision here?
There's no appeal process. So we got 5 topics. We're going to start with the backcourt. So we'll go backcourt, front court, defense, offense, and then prediction for the game. And I will be the sole judge.
I don't like the way this is
I
structured,
will
to be
decide
honest.
who starts. I will finish. I
Andy's
will interject if needed. I will.
Andy's
if
already
I had a
complaining.
gavit, I would drop the gavit right now.
He's already complaining.
Do you have a little buzzer like or
Andy,
a light,
I'm not, Andy,
light
I'm not
system
I'm
like
not
the
going to deal with
presidential
this,
debates,
okay?
a little light system?
Andy, this is how it is, okay? This is what we're doing.
All right.
Let's start with the backcourt. As you can see, I have Andy and Pretty Boy G in blue, and then I have Leonard and Nick in red. We're color coordinated here, all right? We're trying to make this as good as we possibly can. Backcourt for Xavier, you're getting Quentin Gooden at the starting position, point guard. You're also getting J.P. McCura, Trayvon Blewett, and you can throw Paul Scruggs in there. Kaiser Gates is kind of a back and forth as well. So let's go with that backcourt, and then we'll move on to the UC guys.
Oh, you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, okay. I'm pretty comfortable with the 4-man rotation in the backcourt for Xavier. Scruggs had a rough time against Arizona State. I mean, he got his first real pressure moments when Quentin Gooden got into foul trouble, and he sort of spit the bit, which is understandable. But strong kid, good on-the-ball defender. Offensively, not much of a jump shot, but he can get to the back. Quentin Gooden, obviously, is the key guy at the point. And last couple games he's gotten a little ticky-tacky foul trouble, but he's been able to negotiate that. I think Gooden is really, he's a sophomore. He was 9 assists and 0 turnovers against a really good Baylor team the other night. Obviously, Trayvon's health is somewhat a question, but I think he'll be ready to go in that game. I mean, he dropped 40 at UC last year, so I think it's certainly within the realm of possibility that Trayvon's going to go for a big number. And JP just thrives on these situations. He is, the brighter the lights, the better he likes it. Look at that, 17 points in the first half against Baylor. That bank shot at the buzzer was like Scott Drew, the Baylor coach, great coach, came in. He said that was a dagger right there. He goes,
That was a big shot.
And I was sitting under the bucket, getting ready to do my little stupid interview with the assistant coach, and JP's coming right at me 6 seconds. He's not giving the ball up. I don't care what. And he didn't. One little bobble, one little jag move, and boom, bank shot in. So I mean,
Greg, backcourt.
your
X.
thoughts on the back?
Oh, I always agree with everything Andy says, so I'll just try to
I like
elaborate
that.
on top of that.
He just follows Andy's lead right there.
I'm the hype man. He's the knowledge. But anyway, I think, the main thing with me is they've got to be more consistent. They went on the past 2 games. They go on these big runs, and they're hitting from all over the place. And then all of a sudden, they kind of let it go. Up 15 on Arizona State. Then they go in 2 big runs against Baylor, and Baylor kind of snuck their way back. But I mean, with JP Mercure back there, his defense is fantastic. He's all over the floor. I think they're going to have a really, really hard time with him. I think if they get into the 1-3-1, that's a different look that a lot of teams seem to have an issue with. If Gooden can do what he does and just look for that assist and not so much that deep ball, I think Xavier's got the edge in the backcourt.
So
I think the big wings scare me for UC. Evans is probably an NBA guy. I mean, he's a 6'6" guy who shoots the lights out. And Cumberland, I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of jiggle in his game, but a straight line, like full back, whatever. Last year he ran over JP like 3 times in the lane. JP is in there with a sundial waiting for him. Boom. He rams him, no call. I mean, and I'm not criticizing the officials. Yeah. It was an electric atmosphere, but Xavier's got to get a little better whistle at this Cintas. Cumberland, I mean, he's a bull, but he's a bull out of control, and he's got to be penalized when he, runs a guy into yesterday.
All right,
why are you being so
we got
soft,
the backcourt
Andy?
for Xavier. Let's talk about backcourt from UC and counter any points that they made.
I just want to ask Andy, man.
Go ahead.
If the adults start crying, where do the babies go?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
No, but I think our backcourt, I think we're getting it done by committee. I mean, obviously, you look at Xavier, you guys have Blue is averaging 20, Mercury's averaging, 14. So those 2 guys are up there. But, we're getting it done. Our freshman guys are coming off the bench, adding some good productivity. Trevor Moore and Keith are doing well. But our starting guys, Jennifer, Broom, Cumberland, and Evans are, sort of getting it done by committee, I think. So with us, like I said before, I just think it's about limiting the turnovers and the experience with the 2-point guards going into the game. I think that's going to be key for us and critical for us.
Yeah, I think the big thing is turnover limitation. So if UC is able to eliminate a lot of their turnovers, Gooden's not that good at defense. He's about as good at defense as he is at shooting the 3-ball. So I'm thinking that Kane's going to be able to get to the rim, and then I think the biggest thing is who plays which tandem duo plays best, Cumberland and Evans or Blue at Mercure. I think whoever has the best game between those 2, that's who wins this game.
And you guys have a little bit of an edge with Blewett because sometimes he's playing the 4 position.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think that's what last year what hurt us is you're trying to run Gary Clark, who's a natural big, to chase him down. So I think he's a little bit of a tweener, kind of slides back and forth. But I mean that's we've got to monitor that and watch that, and I think they're preparing for that.
Well, Blewett didn't really have a good game against Baylor or against ASU, so I think your injury is a little right. Like I think he's hurt and he's a little slower than normal or a little off. And then so for me, if I'm UC, I just try to piss off Mercure all day, piss him off, get him off his game, and if he's not playing well,
it won't work. It won't work. JP has heard it all. He is the instigator. I mean, he went right up to Manu LeComp at the opening tip last night and started the verbal stuff. And you talk about Quentin Gooden not being a good defender. I mean, I take exception with that. Certainly in the Baylor game, the Xavier pack line was very good. LeComp is arguably the best point guard. Maybe the guy from Kansas might be better. I don't know. In the Big 12, I mean, the #1 rated league in the country. And here's LeComp's line last night. And he dropped 24 against Creighton, 23 against Wisconsin, 4 for 13 from the field. He didn't get to the free throw line. He always shoots 7 free throws a game. He scored 11 points. He averages 19. No assists for their point guard and 2 turnovers in 33 minutes. That is a bad line for a very, very good player who's played on the Belgian national team, and he's gonna make big money in Europe. That kid.
Backcourt, I've heard it on both sides. UC side, Xavier side. It's close. You got stars on both sides. Evans is a star. Blewett's a star. Then you got JP Mercure, you got Cumberland. I think JP, you have the edge there. When it goes down to the point guard position, I think Kane Broome has a really strong upside, but hasn't proven it consistently over a good team. So for me, backcourt in this game, you got to take the Musketeers. I'm taking Trayvon. I'm taking JP.
Hey, Brad, where'd you go to college?
Good job.
They got one. What's that?
I was just wondering where you went to college. I forgot.
Good guys won, bad guys
I am a complete middleman here, guys. I am in the middle. But you got to give the Musketeers, that backcourt is loaded. And Trayvon, JP fair. Playing at a high level. I can't go against those guys yet.
This is strictly a strategic decision on your part based on personnel, not on the quality of the argument,
Absolutely.
which was excellent.
It had nothing to do with the quality. It just had to do with the quality of the players on the floor. Okay.
What does scare me about the UC backcourt is there's a guy by the name of Mo Watson who came out of the Northeast Conference. I think he played at Boston University. And he went to Creighton, and I said to myself, hey, he's a little 5'11" guy from the Northeast Conference. I mean, I'm a little sus. That guy he
really
ate
good.
Xavier alive.
Yeah, great player.
And Broome is so talented.
Similar. He's capable.
He's
Broome's
very capable.
I just haven't seen enough yet.
He could go off.
I haven't seen enough yet. All right, let's move on away from the small guys. All right, we're done with the finesse guys just hanging out on the perimeter like I used to do myself. We're going to the front court guys in the paint, guys that are in the trenches rebounding. Let's start with the UC side on this one, especially with those starting guys, Kyle Washington, Gary Clark, and then the bigs coming off the bench in Scott and Brooks.
Yeah. Well, I think, our big guys are veteran guys. Trey Scott is a younger guy. Him and Nas are both younger, but for the most part, our guys are battle tested. Gary's going to be who he is. 13 points, 10 rebound type of guy. He's going to bring it. He's going to be physical. And I think, Kyle's averaging 10 and 5. I think the rebounds need to be up there a little bit for him to be, our starting big. But he can score. So I think our big guys. I would give the edge to our big guys with this one. I think we're battle tested. Those guys have proven themselves over the last few years, and the younger guys are actually playing pretty well. And same thing, we're deep. I think the team is a little deeper, so we're getting it done by committee also with the big guys, with the younger guys coming and spilling the older guys for some minutes.
Yeah, they got a lot. They got the veteran guys starting lineup, then you got the two young athletic bigs. They're talented as well coming off the bench. Nick,
Brooks coming off the bench is a good answer for your Cantor and for O'Mara. So I mean, I'm pretty that looks good there. But I mean, Gary Clark's a matchup nightmare. So I think you're going to struggle there. And then just overall, Tyreek played well last night, but before that, he's played a bunch of cupcakes as well. I mean, as much as UC's schedule has been pretty weak, Tyreek looked good last night, but can he get it done 2 games in a row? So I think he only scored he had 1 point against Baylor. I mean, he's big, but I think that's kind of the key is can Tyreek play a full game against a rotating 4, and if not, I don't know who answers.
I think we have to.
And Tyreek really had a horrible game against Ethan Happ, the best big in the country, certainly in the Big Ten. He really played a stinking game up there in Madison in front of those 17,500 yahoos and what do they call it, the red squirrel.
Yeah, you were the one who told me that. I didn't know their name. That was last week you mentioned that to me.
Yeah, their student section. So, obviously you've done your research on Tyreek. Tyreek had 7 rebounds last night. I thought he played a great physical inside game. He took that big 7-footer, Joe Laul, whatever his name is.
He's going
to play in the NBA.
Achul.
He's going to play in the NBA. I thought Tyreek banged him. Tyreek needs 25 minutes against UC. He's going to have to negotiate foul trouble. And Gary Clark is like a 4-year wonder. Here's a guy, as a senior, he's calling his own number. When he gets the ball down the block, he's like a throwback. He uses that butt really well. He shoots free throws now. I mean, he gets to the line. He's shooting free throws. Always so unselfish. He's going to have a big game. I think he's going to have to drop 18, 20, whatever, which he's done. He had a great game against Buffalo when they were in trouble down in the Cayman Islands.
And he's played well in this game before too. He's played well against Xavier. Since his freshman year, he's been good.
He's very good. And Washington is a little squirrely, but he's a left-hander. And you know, he escaped North Carolina State, so I give him respect for that. But I think Washington's very good. Brooks is a key guy. I mean, here's a guy he's a rim protector, shot blocker, and he could be. I don't think Xavier's going to be intimidated though after facing that Baylor front line and Ethan Happ as far as big guys. So both he and Washington are going to have to play well. The young guys for UC, I sort of dismiss, really. In the first shootout on the road, if you're a freshman or sophomore, unless you're a very special player, you're not going to, it's going to be like the lights. I mean, it's a completely different atmosphere. So, I mean, I think Trey Scott's a good player, and the other young guys they've got have a lot of potential, and they're going to be good at the end of the year, and they'll be good in their league. But this game, if you get anything from those guys, early in their career, in their first game at Cintas, it is a total bonus. It's on the vets. It's on Gary Clark to be above normal. It's on Kyle Washington to stay on the floor. And it's about Brooks coming in and giving them some quality minutes. Because the Xavier three-headed center monster is, you know, statistically it may not be impressive, but they all have their roles now. And Cantor is definitely getting better. He's going to draw some fouls against those guys.
Yeah, Cantor's made some really good strides. Game against Arizona State, he had 10 points in that first half. Played well again against Bailey the other night. So they're finally getting what they thought they would get out of Cantor. Be interesting to see if he can do it against some really good bigs.
And this is
again.
Big Sean O'Mara's last bite at the UC Apple. He wants to go 3-1 on the career. If they use him on the pick and roll, he's great on the pick and roll like he was in the NCAA. I think Big Sean can play well.
This is a tough one for me, Greg.
Maybe I can nudge you over the edge here a little bit.
Go ahead, try to nudge.
But you know, considering UC's strength of schedule, which last night it was when I looked, it was in the 300s compared to Xavier's. I think it was 32nd. We'll just go over Gary Clark. We're going offensive efficiency here. His field goal percentage from inside the arc, 60%. Kyle Washington's 58%. And then Trey Scott, he's at 75, but he's playing 13 minutes a game. He's not shooting the ball too much, like 1-2 attempts a game. So then you go over to Xavier, you've got Sean O'Mara shooting 79% from inside. Kareem Cantor, 77%. Tyreek Jones, 70%. Najee Marshall, 68%. I mean...
Actually,
I hear you.
How many shots are those guys taking?
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
to be fair,
they've
those
all
UC
taken over
bigs are
15
expected to
shots.
score a lot more than the Xavier bigs. So the UC is getting a lot more attempts from those guys than what Xavier is. Xavier's not counting on their bigs to do a ton of scoring. Not a lot of offensive
yeah,
production.
but they're very efficient when they get the ball in low. Xavier actually leads the country in two-point field goal percentage, and that includes not only post-up moves, but dunks, layups, transition. That's a pretty impressive of 351 teams. And Xavier's played like a schedule with a pulse. You know, like three really good teams.
You can only play who
maybe
you schedule.
maybe 3.5. Hey, who made the schedule? UC's schedule early on, I mean, I'm sure Mick Cronin has his reasons, and as Leonard says, it really toughens up now, obviously, with the Floridas and the Xaviers and that type of thing. But, you know, why waste this great talent group and submit your fans who have to go to NKU anyway to Savannah State, Alabama State, and the rest of the...
All right, I've heard enough on the front
pitiful.
court. I'm ready to make a decision on the front
That
court.
would even bore me, and I love basketball. I mean,
I've made my call, Greg, on the front court. Front court is done. I'm not hearing anything more on either side.
Shot attempts, by the way, they're way closer.
Yeah, just let
Hey,
it
we
go.
forgot
Let it
about
go.
Kaiser Gates.
I'm done.
We forgot about Kaiser Gates.
He's like a hybrid. I'll give you Kaiser.
He'll be a huge factor in this game if he puts the ball on the floor. You can't guard him. If you come out and stab him, and he's a great shooter from three-point range, he's going to, like he did against, go right by you.
The emergence of Cantor does a lot for me on the Xavier side. I mean, he's played really well the last two games, looked really pedestrian prior to that.
Gates scored 19 against Baylor. I mean,
Yeah, I saw it. Jones has been good.
Yeah.
Gates has been good. O'Mara's been okay. But on the other side, you see, I feel like I get more consistency with Washington. I get more consistency with Clark. Those guys are bigger playmakers than what Xavier has right now. And for that reason, UC, they're getting my nod on the front court. I'm taking the UC front court over the Xavier front court.
Suck it, Andy.
I'll tell you, if
you're a homer,
UC
Brad.
if UC doesn't win the front court battle on the boards and in scoring, they definitely lose the ball game. I mean,
Those guys can
100%.
rebound. Cumberland comes down and rebounds too.
They got to have 40 points or 38 points from Washington and Clark. They got to have it.
Well, let's go to my favorite part of the game, and that's on the defensive side. So team defense, Xavier against the UC defensive team that they have. Where are the Muskies at defensively?
Where are they defensively?
Yeah.
Well, after Arizona State, I would have said in the crapper, that's for sure. I mean, somewhere out in the middle of the Pacific. But after the Baylor game, they went strictly pack line. They did. We predicted, Brad and I, that they would play some of that 1-3-1 zone. I think it must have been running around in Mac's mind when he got the double-digit lead to try the zone, but he really never did. The pack line was flowing so well. They bottled up Lecomte, the good point guard. They really didn't give up a lot of uncontested shots at all. And I think the pack line, the guys learned a great lesson against Arizona State, and I think that will carry over. Xavier's not going to press. They're never going to press. That's not going to happen. I think he could very well use the 1-3-1 as he did 2 years ago against UC at the Cintas. He actually brought the game home by using the 1-3-1. UC scored, I think, 8 points in the last 8 minutes. I mean, they just did. This UC team, better shooting team. I think that might be a little bit problematic if you have Evans on one wing, Cumberland on the other, and all the other shooters that they've got. Washington can pop out, and Gary Clark's even hoisted up some threes this year. So I think the pack line is a real weapon and will be very effective.
Yeah, big difference from the Arizona State game when they couldn't guard anybody, and then it looked like they had 2 guys playing defense on the floor, and then you play Baylor and it looked like Xavier had 10 guys on the floor.
It was like a light switch, whatever, and again, those punky Pac-12 teams, they all are, they have all these midgets running around, and it's like a Shriners Circus parade. It's ridiculous. They're in those little cars.
Well, and we know the hallmark of Cincinnati basketball, especially with Coach Cronin, has been on the defensive side. The competition for them hasn't been there, but do you feel like this team defensively is where they need to be going into this game?
Yeah, I think so. Mick is defensive-minded coach. Playing for him is going to be defense first. And I think we've seen that in the games we had. We struggled a little bit against UB, but other than that, we've went out and won the games by what we should win by. I just think defensively, that's just, where the mentality is with Mick. And I think you have to play defense first. So defense doesn't really concern me with our bunch. I think that's the staple of his coaching style.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the main thing is what you brought up. Like, the only thing that would ever worry me from Xavier winning on a defensive side would be the 1-3-1. But UC shoots 40%. They're shooting 40% from the three-point line this year. If they're not hitting shots, fine, but it's a dicey game to play.
Does it take away anything that this team offensively is more improved? Do you feel like there's maybe more of an emphasis on the offensive side and the defense could lack a little bit?
Their points against are still 58. 57.3 it says right here. Like, it's pretty low.
Yeah, granted, strength of schedule, like we talked about earlier, but I think, like I said, we're going to bring it on the defensive end, and that's just Mick's staple. Obviously, the offensive side we're trying to get figured out with turnovers and things like that. But this will be our first game. We'll be battle tested, so it'll be interesting to see. But I think defensively we're going to do what we usually do.
I'm
almost in position to make my decision.
Any statistical argument that backs up UC, you can take the stat sheet and shred it because of the lack of competitiveness in the schedule.
I'll give you that point, Andy.
They're plus
point
30.
taken.
They're plus 30 in points per game. They're plus 15 on the boards. They're a good team. They've got great talent. I respect the way they play, but those stats are worthless.
But
they have no relevance to the situation.
But you also just said that Xavier's defense has been like flipping on and off a light switch. So like yours is irrelevant as well.
Well, it depends on the style of team you're playing. Arizona State and Pac-12 teams have been like kryptonite to
midgets,
Chris Mack teams, the little midgets out there. And well, UC does have a couple of midgets there, the point guards.
Wow.
But,
We can, I mean,
That's aggressive.
And we can score the ball, pretty in droves also.
Oh,
like
there's
those
no
guys.
doubt.
We're going to get to offense in a second.
There's no
defense.
doubt.
Defense, rebounding.
Defensively, I hope that UC comes out and presses. And I don't think Mick is, he's a smart guy. He's not going to do it at the Cintas. He tried it against X one time in 2011 at his place when you were injured, Brad. You were out for the year. He knew that. And Xavier was very light in the guard line. And they treated Tu Holloway like a piñata that game. No calls. He didn't even get the free throw line. The guy shot 12 free throws a game.
I would be
he's not
surprised
gonna
to see that press as well.
And Xavier has done a great job against their matchup zone in the half court in the recent shootouts, hitting a great percentage from three. Not overdoing it, 18, 20 attempts, but shooting really well from three. And this team this Xavier team, if you give them an open look from three, man, add Kaiser Gates now to the equation. Granted they play, they're a good defensive team, but at the Cintas Center, with this group, this senior-laden group, and with Gates and whatever, they're gonna shred that UC team. Not shred it, but they're gonna.
Wow, you said shred. He said shred. He said shred the defense.
I mean, the one thing you can't. This game is too intense. There's too much. So it's tough to press in those type of games. I mean, in those rivalry
That's why
games.
I hope he does it.
Yeah, I don't think. I think. Mick's got it figured out. I think, between him and Chris Mack, they're kind of just like a little bit of a chess game if you watch these matches early
It is.
on.
It's great.
Yeah. So the first team that kind of makes the mistake and gets the momentum, that's usually how it goes. But I just, it's going to be the usual with us, man. You're going to have to score through our chest, and we're going to try and bring it.
Guys, I'm done hearing about defense. All right, I've had enough. We're going to move on to offense.
You never played any defense. You never practiced any defense. I understand.
The difference for
offense.
me when I'm looking at Xavier and UC defensively is
that red marker in
it's
his hand.
UC's brand. It's what they do. It's a veteran group. They know the system. They know what Coach Cronin wants. I think defensively, I'm still going to give the edge to UC. That Arizona State game is still implanted in my mind, just how bad Xavier was when they're one-on-one defense, guarding and man-to-man. I still think UC defensively gets the nod here.
Jeez.
Comeback kids.
Give you a year left of eligibility, Brad.
2 in a row.
Maybe you can go back and play.
So as we move,
Brad, can you change ours to like a circle or something?
yes.
Brad, I can hurt you professionally, Brad.
You can't see it?
I can hurt
Yeah, that's
you.
what I'm saying. Just give
I
us
got
a C or
power
something.
over you.
We don't need that X. I don't need that X by my name. Those two X's.
Can anybody
I'm
read that
covering it
back
in.
there?
Covering it in. Guys, we only have 2 more left. We have offense followed by our final predictions. Offensively, let's go with UC first. Much improved offensively. Where are these guys at right now on that end of the floor?
And we're scoring the ball. Got a lot of firepower. I mean, if you look all of our guys, I think Gary's leading the team at 14 a game, and I've got all the way down to Keith, who's averaging 6 a game. So I mean, we're pretty balanced in scoring with our attack. I think that's we I don't know what we're averaging. What are we averaging?
89.
Yeah, 89 per game. So
They've been scored 102 times or 3 times at this point?
3 times.
3 times? So they're scoring. I mean,
Almost 3 in a row. We got
Yeah.
90,
3 in a row.
95 or something.
who needs to step up offensively on Saturday to really make this a game where UC can actually win?
Well, I think it's a little bit of everybody, right? Like that's kind of UC's game is we're gonna run 10 or 11, and so I think it's just like a lot of people. I think the main step up is I'm interested to see what kind of points come from the point guard position, limiting turnovers versus points, and then I mean if Gary Clark goes out and has himself a game, it's gonna be on.
Muskies? What do we got?
UC is not
Muskies?
going to play 10 or 11 at the Crosstown Shootout at the Cintas Center. The bench is going to contract. He's going to get down to his base group of 7 or 8 that he can really trust. The young guys are going to go away. I mean, They may get a little cup of coffee. They'll be starstruck. they will not be impact players.
Andy, you allow such a perspective.
I'm sorry.
You're a genius. You're a maestro with your
the
words.
only
and
freshman who
metaphors.
will have an impact on this game is Najee Marshall. He plays for Xavier. The
Marshall's a
Huskies
good
are
player.
averaging 92 a game. They are on friendly rims at the Cintas Center. J.P. McCura, the spotlight is on. He's going to drop a big number. Trayvon will be styling and shooting. He's going to hit his. And the inside guys as a group will participate well. Kaiser Gates is the wild card here. He is playing with confidence. They're going to have to go out and mark him at the three-point range. He'll put the ball on the floor. He's become much better in terms of scoring near the basket and rebounding and other aspects. He's becoming a 94-foot player now. He's going to be tough for UC to handle. I think that Xavier will score in the 80s in this game. I agree with Leonard. It's a grind-out game, but both these teams are so talented offensively. I think it's going to be Xavier. If they up the score into the mid-70s to low 80s, they've got the game won. And getting to the free throw line is really important. Xavier, a much better free throw shooting team than UC historically and this year also. And Xavier, by the way, is like the number 4 team in the Ken Palm deal in offensive efficiency, and that's points per possession. That's not any screwball, wild stat. That's a really good stat. All the coaches look at that. Xavier's averaging. They're right there with Duke, Kansas, that whole group.
And Duke's numbers are real numbers against teams they've played. And you said it earlier, top 2-point field goal percentage in the country. They're really good from the three-point line. They got 5 guys that can pretty much stretch you out.
And they're shooting 78 from the free throw line.
So, I mean, those numbers, it's hard. I mean, defensively, where do you go? They got guys that can pretty much score at every single angle. For UC, Clark, Washington, I think those guys maybe cause some problems and do a nice job. Washington is a really interesting guy to me, just the way that he plays. Xavier had some issues with him last year. I think if he gets going, they can cause them some trouble. But I think right now, I mean, that firepower that you have with Xavier, at least on my end right now, it just looks better. I have some questions with the point guard position with UC. Turnover-wise, are they going to be able to handle the pressure, get the ball to the rim, make plays for teammates in a game like that? Because if you're a point guard in that game, Kane Broome and Jennifer, they need to be able to knife through Xavier's defense. They need to be able to get into the paint and make really good decisions to get other guys open. I think that's going to be a huge question mark going into this game.
And the number one motivational factor that I've forgotten to mention is that Chris Mack said after last year's shootout, we got punked on the boards. He hates that. Rebounding is the number one priority in his game preparation. Those bigs are going to be so motivated. They may be too motivated. Tyreek could have 3 fouls in the warm-up. I don't know. But those bigs are not going to be embarrassed last year. That was the beginning of the end for Rashid Gaston last year, the way he played in the shootout. I mean, he disappeared from the rotation, in February and March. He shouldn't have even dressed for the NCAA games. I mean, Tyreek, Big Sean, Karem Cantor, Gates, all those guys, I mean, they're going to box out hard. I know UC's very talented. They're going to bounce bodies, and that's the key theme here. Chris Mack is we're not going to. They're going to put the rim, the plastic rim, even on the day before the game on the bucket and play that rebounding drill. That ball buster rebounding drill. He's not going to be out rebounded.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that drill.
That's a terrible drill.
Bad drill.
Geez.
But offensively, right now for me, Xavier, the versatility on the perimeter, the ability to go inside. For me, Xavier on offense. I got to give it to those guys right now.
All right, come back, son. 2-2. That's
So
the way it should be.
So far we have the Xavier backcourt, the Xavier offense being better than UC, and then we have the UC front court and UC defense getting the edge. I want you guys just to make your final prediction, final thoughts on the game, and then I will, based on that, judge who I think is going to win the game as well. And we'll reveal our overall winner, because that will turn the tide from 2-2 to possibly 3-2. I may call it a tie, though. I don't know, depending on how good these predictions are. Leonard, let's go with your prediction. We'll go to Nick, and then we'll follow that up with Greg and Andy to close it.
I'm going to go UC by 7.
UC by 7.
Jeez.
Who has the big game?
I think Broom's going to step up. Obviously, Gary will be Gary, but I think Broom and Evans are going to have.
Kane's going to need to play well. I think if Kane has a good game, that's going to put UC in a good position.
I think it all kind of comes down to like the plus or minus 75 point total. So I'm thinking we hold Xavier under 75 points, we win the game. Over, they're going to win, so I'm going to go 73 to 68 UC.
Okay.
I think we've got.
Come on.
Come on, Greg.
I'm trying. I think you've got, Trayvon is a senior, JP is a senior, Sean is a senior. I think this game is really going to mean a lot to them, especially how last year ended. I think Trayvon's going to have a big game. He's had 2 slower games, but I think he's going to really come out this game. And I think inside, I think Cantor's going to be able to do some work after his past 2 games going on. I mean, I think he had 2 games in a row. I think he scored 8 points straight during the game. I think he brings a different aspect than last year. I just don't think UC can keep up with the scoring. I'm going to go with Xavier 86, UC 80.
High scoring.
I'm really I have trepidation about pushing the winning score in this game into the 80s because it has the possibility of being a grinded out half-court game, and I think Coach Mac might, if he's got a lead, he might pop that 1-3-1. If it works, he'll keep working it, and that way he'll make UC throw 82 passes to get a decent look, and then hopefully they miss and Xavier rebounds and they control the tempo. But there's so much offensive talent on both sides of the ball. And Xavier has the home court advantage, which I think is huge in this game. They have the 4 seniors, and Kaiser Gates is ready to blossom in a big game. He already did against Baylor, and he played well against Wisconsin also. I like Xavier 82-75, and Xavier needs to start fast, and I think all the elements are there to do that. When they're focused, they've started fast against Wisconsin and against Baylor, and they will really be focused in this game. If Blewett is not 100%, I don't think that's a killer in this game. He's going to be closer to 100% on Saturday than he was against the Baylor Bears, so that's a plus.
And the guy was 150% last year, wasn't he?
He did drop 40 against UC. I think he had a perfect first half. He hit every shot he made.
8 for 8 in that first half.
And Blewett is such an efficient player. If he's a little below 100%, he's going to give the ball up and he's going to do the other stuff. But I think he's going to rise to the occasion in this game. Xavier's going to be tough to beat. JP is going to have a couple of those strip steals from Gary Clark like he did 2 years ago, and I think Clark's going to have to drop a big number. Washington's going to have to play very, very well. He's not going to be able to get into mixed doghouse because he doesn't play defense or whatever. Why they take him out of the game is beyond me, the way they do. And I think Kane Brunn's going to be a very good player, but not this game, not this early, not his first road game at this level.
All right. Well, we've heard it. I'm not surprised that the 2 guys to my left pick UC, the guys to my right pick Xavier, and then now it's my chance to determine who I think is going to be the winner. And I got a red pen in my left hand. I got a blue pen in my right hand.
Hey, Brad, before
you just are a little showman, aren't you?
before you answer this, I'm curious. What are you going to be doing around 11:30 to 11:40ish on Saturday?
Well, me and Andy have a pregame show over at Cintas, so I'll be there. I'll probably be a couple beers deep by that point. But
all right, I was just wondering what you're doing. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll be there. Here's what I'll say. If the game was at UC, I would say I would give UC the edge.
Wait, if the game were at UC, it couldn't be played. It would have to
Well,
be
they were the
played
home
at.
team,
It
Andy.
would
They
have
were
to
the
be
home
played
team.
at. It would have to be played at Schmidlap Gym or in the middle of the football field because the damn arena is
Man,
like
he is
hollowed
coming at
out.
him. The guy is full of energy right now.
The arena has no lights and no seats. It's like under construction.
It'd be a
Brad.
tough basketball environment.
All right, well, neutral court, I think it's pick'em game. I think it's a pick'em game. But we talked about earlier, Xavier is 6-1 against UC at the Cintas Center. Xavier has been kind of tested this season already with 3 different teams. I feel Trayvon, JP, and the bright lights. I want those 2 guys on my side at home. I'm giving the edge to the Musketeers.
Yes.
I think the
Yes.
Musketeers win this. And with that, we have Andy and Pretty Boy Greg. They have taken home the title of the debate.
Hey,
I mean, it's not.
Good luck next year,
You
guys.
got Leonard and Nick made some great points, but I just feel like on Saturday at noon or around 2 o'clock when that game ends, the Musketeers are going to reign victorious in Cincinnati once again, which would mean 13 out of the last.
What's our
19
prize,
years for the
Brad?
Musketeers.
I'm
What's your
proud.
prize?
Guarantee prizes.
Oh,
What-
the prize is you get praise
Oh,
from
oh,
everybody.
I get-
So how about a little wager?
Let's make a wager. What do we think here?
Oh.
I'll go UC.
Bring it
so
on,
I'll make
baby.
a wager with you.
Next week,
Bring it
the
on.
loser has to wear
The other's jersey.
the other
I like that.
a shirt. Or
I like
Okay.
that.
some gear. For
Yeah, I'm not like
How
necessarily. I'm not
about
buying
if we
a suit.
take you to UDF and I'll buy you a Diet Mountain Dew? No, whatever
So
you
okay,
want.
so Xavier.
Whatever you want.
With the Xavier win, then Leonard, you'll wear one of my jerseys, and the next time we do this,
I wear whatever X gear.
and then if the UC Bearcats are able to go into the Cintas and win that game, I will do our next podcast, hopefully in a Leonard Stokes jersey. Actually, we're gonna have to make Andy wear that.
And a hat.
Yep, I'll do whatever.
I don't have to wear it.
I'm
Andy, you have to wear a Leonard Stokes jersey.
I'd be proud to wear that.
No,
And we're gonna get you a blue blazer if you lose.
Guys, great
My
job.
Hall of Fame jacket.
Great job. It was fun. I'm looking forward to the game on Saturday. Everybody else watching it, thank you guys. And we will be back next week. Looking forward to the shootout.